Checkpoint 1, secured. Checkpoint 2, secured. Checkpoint 3. Checkpoint 3 secured. All hands secured. Opening bunker.
How are we doing, everybody? So let me start this off by just saying I'm a little bit heartbroken that Desantis dropped out this early. However, I'm over it. I knew Trump was going to win the whole time anyway. It's not really about DeSantis winning that made me want him in there. It was more about just having that plan B, because I don't like unknowns, and knowing that Nikki Haley is the only other candidate right now, frankly, scares me to death. So I want to start off by just playing a basic not a basic, but a video from DeSantis, which was released yesterday. And I'm going to cut it off when he starts getting into thanking his family and everything. Not that that's not important, but it's not paramount to this conversation. But he is endorsing Trump, so that's obvious. I think that most of us anyway, knew that was coming. The primary, combat and all that is par for the course. They all come together in the end. And I saw a clip of Trump saying he's officially retiring Ron DeSanctimonious, which I thought was a horrible name anyway. But it's just too long. You needed to come up with something more curt. But let's just see. DeSantis bowed out.
Greetings from Florida.
So check it out.
The warmth of being home is a reminder why I've chosen public service. From joining the United States Navy and serving in Iraq, to representing the people in the U.S. Congress, and now serving as governor of Florida. And it reminds me why I decided to run for president, to fight for those who have been forgotten in this country. This is America's time for choosing. We can choose to allow a border invasion, or we can choose to stop it. We can choose reckless borrowing and spending, or we can choose to limit government and lower inflation. We can choose political indoctrination, or we can choose classical education. These choices are symptoms of the underlying struggle to ensure that constitutional government can endure and that Western civilization can survive. And we launched this campaign to bring accountability to government, regain sovereignty at our border, and restore sanity to our society. We cannot succeed as a country if we allow our nation to be invaded, our currency to be debased, our cities to crumble, and our kids to be indoctrinated. The DC elites who facilitated this mess do not care about you, and they do not work for you. They work for themselves. They seek to accumulate power at your expense to pursue an agenda that is harmful to the American people. Citizens do not serve politicians. It is the duty of politicians to serve you. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Reversing the decline of this nation requires leadership that delivers big results for the people we are elected to serve. I have a record of leading with conviction, championing an agenda marked by bold colors, delivering on my promises, and defeating the people who are responsible for our nation's decline. That is the type of leadership we need for all of America. Now, over the past many months, Casey and I have traveled across the country to deliver a message of hope, that decline is a choice, and that we can, in fact, succeed again as a nation. Nobody worked harder, and we left it all out on the field. Now, following our second place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward. If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents. The days of putting Americans last, of kowtowing to large corporations, of caving to woke ideology are over. I thank all of our passionate supporters who have stood by us through it all. That we had people volunteer to come to Iowa in the middle of a blizzard to knock on doors and make phone calls touched us dearly. No candidate had more thrown at him, but no candidate had so many committed volunteers and staff. Finally, I want to thank my wife, Casey, and our kids, Madison, Mason, and Mamie. Casey's gone far above and beyond in her support for our campaign and for our cause. She's not only a great wife and mother, she's a great American who cares deeply about the future of the country that our kids will inherit. Our kids have seen and done a lot on the trail, from playing on the famed Field of Dreams baseball site in Iowa to making their first snowman in New Hampshire. They are one of the reasons we fight so hard for what we believe in. Winston Churchill once remarked that success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. While this campaign has ended, the mission continues. Down here in Florida, we will continue to show the country how to lead. Thank you, and God bless.
Okay, so I mean, we got the gist, right? It was typical DeSantis, class act. Did a good job in his campaign. I think, my brother had mentioned to me, and folks, I don't think I can get. I don't think my comments are connected here. They don't seem to be working, so I'm going to. I'm just going to be going back and forth to the different platforms. Right now, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. So I'm just going to go back to the different platforms to look for comments and then react to the comments accordingly. I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about it. I'm also, by the way, going to get into this Texas decision that came out as well. I don't have a ton of information on it. It just broke, but just curious to get people's thoughts on that as well. But with respect to DeSantis, the one thing that scares me about him being out, like, even though I was kind of always a fan and, was kind of fighting back against, Trump supporters who were kind of hitting him in different ways. I think it's good for the Trump supporter now that they no longer have to have this conflict of, of liking two people who are now debating each other, sort of thing. I think that's a good part of him dropping out, because I think we all know he was never going to win anyway. But at early on, in the very early stages, I thought there was a shot. I thought that, that there were a lot of people who just didn't want the show, right? And they just wanted to get down to issues. But then once they started attacking Trump with these charges and all, I was just like, there's no way anyone's beating Trump. Like, when I saw the deep state just show their hand and start coming up with these frivolous suits, it became obvious that this was going to be, Trump was going to be 2024. And so at that point, it became, some people were saying, well, then why are they even in there? Like, why are they even running? And think about the scenario right now, right? Because, look, I want to say that there's really, everything they're doing against Trump is failing, and that they, that there's just no way, they're going to stop this Trump train from reaching its destination. But at the same time, I also know not to underestimate the people who are, Trump underestimated them his first time in office, and it didn't help him any, and I think we all underestimated them a little bit the first time in office. And, and again, it didn't go well. So I don't want to underestimate these people. And if they do pull something off, if they do manage to figure out some way to prevent him from being able to run, I don't want to be left with Nikki Haley as the only person that is on the ballot. Now, yes, DeSantis could come back in, I guess, and basically be a write-in or come in as an independent, right, at that point. But, like, it's just the point, though. It's the point that, like, even if he came in as an independent, now you're splitting votes from the Democrats, and, the Democrats that don't want Biden, you split, that would have gone for DeSantis or would have gone for whatever. Now, like, Nikki Haley's got a special type of voter, right? So Like there's nothing good is voting for Nikki Haley. I mean, she's as rhino as it gets. So those rhino Republicans who would have just gotten in line and voted for DeSantis would then be splitting votes and voting for people like Nikki Haley, who I think the deep state is absolutely, fired up and stoked that she's still in. Like that's just my take. I think the deep state is fired up that Nikki Haley is the only one left, even though they're going to struggle like hell to try and get Trump out of this race. I think it's still a matter of of just still celebration for them because they know that if they can pull it off, they've got their person, right? I think it's clear when you look at Nikki Haley's position, she is status quo. There's everything about her. Some of it is even creepier than status quo. She wants to, dox everybody online. She's raising the Social Security age to, like, that's not the solution to Social Security. Privatizing it is the solution to Social Security. You want to do something that starts with the young folks, you privatize it. That's what you do. You want to really make this system salvageable, that's what you do. She's pro-Ukraine, right? She's going to dump money into Ukraine, keep the big machine, the military-industrial complex, well-funded, because I don't know if she doesn't know any better if she's in the tank, but it doesn't matter. Her actions are going to suck. And right now we're flying without a net. That's the way I guess I see it. I see it as we're flying without a net. Like now Trump better make it in. And Bob, I see you over there on Facebook. Says I honestly think he's placed in the race to flush out deep state donors, take their money. I would not be a bit surprised if you see DeSantis in a cabinet position grooming for a 2028 run. DeSantis is definitely looking at a 2028 run. As far as him being planted, I will not buy that. If we're going to say DeSantis, like he's done nothing but good things. He's done nothing but and frankly, he has hit the deep state, CCP, and globalists in more areas than Trump has. He's done it on a state level, but other states have followed him, so it's had impact. Like he went after the Confucius Institutes. A plant would not go after the Confucius Institutes. Most people don't even know what the Confucius Institutes are, right? And if you don't know, if you're watching and you don't know, that's how China picked up the Soviet ball in institutions in universities around this country and continued to subvert the United States of America. And I don't even think Trump knows what a Confucius Institute is, but DeSantis was going after them, and other states went as well. He pulled. Here's another perfect example. He pulled the pension funds, like Florida's state pension fund. He pulled it out of BlackRock. Like that's something that he doesn't have to do. That's something you only do that if you understand. You only do that if you understand the blow that you're dealing. There's no way a deep state plant is going to do that. There's no way the deep state's going to say, because they need BlackRock to be incredibly well funded, pulling out a state like Florida and then setting the trend for other states to pull their pension funds out of BlackRock. That's like half of BlackRock's worth is United States individual state pension funds. So I won't buy that he's a plant. Nikki Haley, on the other hand, I will. She's done nothing. I mean, she was great in the UN, but she's done nothing, of substance on the national stage. She's done her positions are completely in line. If you were to say, okay, if we have a deep state plant, where your position's going to lie, it would be Nikki Haley. It would be funding Ukraine, right? It would be raising the age of Social Security. Not that that's an issue that deep state really even cares about, but like that. She's the person. She's the person with all the positions. Doxing people online, right? Getting that out. Like she's that person, and so it's important, to understand that. I don't see her going. Apparently, she's got some kind of following in New Hampshire. She's still going to get smoked by Trump, especially now that DeSantis is gone. To me, without DeSantis in Iowa, it would have been 70-20, Trump over Haley. Like, I don't see one DeSantis voter going over to Nikki Haley. I'm sure there are some. There are always one. But, the old saying goes, there's always one. There will be some. But, overwhelming majority of people who were voting for DeSantis were people who just didn't want to see the poop show anymore. They just wanted the substance. And they were tired of just dealing with the constant, assaults on Trump and the circus that follows him wherever. Like, they just got tired of dealing with that and felt that they could get the same policies from DeSantis. They can get the same tough demeanor from DeSantis. That's the only people that would vote for DeSantis. So when DeSantis is out, they're not going to Haley. like they're not going to Haley. Like, Trump just, in that sense, Trump has a big win here. I look at it from a deep state perspective, though, and I feel like they're celebrating a little bit too. And we can only wait, right, to find out exactly how this goes down. But that's, that's just my take on it, right? That's just my take on it. All right, and then I think Bob is saying he meant he was placed there to flush out the deep state, so not working with Trump. So I got that a little wrong. Okay, sorry, but I get a lot of this I get a lot of this stuff about DeSantis, so I just assumed that that's what you meant, and I apologize for that. So that is not, you meant he's gonna. I think Ramaswamy was more in that camp. Ramaswamy was like, I feel like Trump just said, hey, look, get in the race. You're gonna say all the things that I can't say. Or, you got a better handle on this issue, that issue, or this issue. You go out and start making the case for those things, and then I'll just, sit in the background and just, you stir some stuff up, and then we'll drop you out, and then you come to me, right? Because, I mean, Ramaswamy, like, jumped off the stage and literally landed right in Trump's lap, right? Like, it's one thing to endorse the guy. It's another thing, to kind of, I just feel like Ramaswamy swoons over the guy. So, but it is what it is, right? The issues are good. The issues are the same. The issues are where they should be. And Ramaswamy was on issue. I liked a lot of his answers. I liked the fact that he pointed out that, look, when it comes to Ukraine, he's the only one who said this. When it comes to Ukraine, I'm just going to make it clear that they will never be a part of NATO. When they ask you, how are you going to end this conflict? That's the answer. That's the answer. It's not, the wishy-washy stuff that came from DeSantis. It's not the comments from Trump like, I'm going to give him more than I ever get. Like, it's none of that. It's one simple thing. You don't even have to talk to Putin. All you have to do is make it abundantly, if you're going to talk to Putin, you say one thing. There is no way under my presidency that Ukraine becomes a part of NATO. That's it. Entire conflict ends that day. It really is that simple. The entire thing started because we sent that cackling doo-doo Kamala Harris out to freaking Ukraine as if she has any handle on any situation ever, and had her go out and publicly and vocally say that she was going to, that Ukraine had a good shot at becoming a part of NATO. It was like days after that, a week after that, that the conflict began. Because it was obvious to Putin what was going to happen. He's not going to let Ukraine he'll destroy it before he allows it to become a part of NATO. He doesn't even want it. He just doesn't want NATO there. And so if NATO's going to insist on bringing him in, then he's going to give him rubble. Because he has a good relationship with Ukraine as far as the people are concerned. A good portion, almost half of that country, still speak Russian, still consider themselves, Crimea. They keep talking about Crimea. They're not upset that they're a part of Russia. It's the whole thing would have ended there. Nikki Haley will propagate that, but only Ramaswamy got it right. But he's gone now too. So we're down to just Trump and Haley. So let's just pray to God that these deep state coconuts can't do anything, can't pull some crap off that's going to derail this thing, because it's going to get messy after that. Without a clear number two, it's going to get messy. So, now it's time, I guess, for all of us to pray for Trump. It's probably long been time to pray for Trump. But that being said, now more than ever, now we pray for all of us. The world will be praying, for Trump right now. So they need to keep him in a bubble. Don't let him cross the street on his own. Don't let him do anything. Like, just you just stay in this room. We'll bring you anything you need. you know, and let's just get this to the finish line, because that's what needs to happen. Let me do a quick spot here for any other comments on the other platforms. I don't see any on Rumble or YouTube, so we're good. I see Bob, you're cranking out there on Facebook. But yeah, so that's, that's my take on the DeSantis piece, right? It's just got to be it's got to be handled. And Bob says over here at Facebook, it's out of character for DeSantis to run against Trump after he got him the governor's seat. See, I don't believe that either, though. I don't feel like he owes him anything. Like honestly, he got him the governor's seat, but what DeSantis did with it is what got him reelected. Like, if he would have went into the governor's seat and been, whatever, and he went into his second election and he, he got over by, a point or 2 points. Because Florida was that way, let's face it, right? Florida, we forget now because it's so dark red, thanks to DeSantis. But Florida was purple forever. Let's not forget 2000, right? It never changed. It was always who's going to win Florida. There's no doubt who's going to win Florida now. Like, there's no doubt that the Republican candidate wins Florida. Like, that's like the entire legislature was turned over because of the successes that man had in Florida. Like, his second election, he won by 20 points. There's been no Republican governor who has won Florida by 20 points in my lifetime, I don't believe. Certainly not in my adult lifetime. So, I mean, he earned that second run. He earned the right to run for president. It's just the timing was bad. My brother had mentioned to me that he had heard that DeSantis, and I don't know if DeSantis said this or if it was someone else reporting that they heard him say this, but that supporters were saying to him, "Look, man, we love you. This is just not the time. Like, we, right now, this is Trump's time," and kind of broke the case to him that way. Like, we do love you. Like these votes that are going to Trump, those votes love you too. It's not like your typical, no way would I vote for this guy. It's just not now. And that DeSantis kind of took that to heart. And I could see him doing that, right? That's why I kind of took it, I wasn't able to find a clip of him saying that or that conversation going down. But like, if one of you guys heard it, you can let me know. But like, as far as, if I'm DeSantis, I could see DeSantis hearing that from voters. And he probably has heard that everywhere he goes. Like, he's probably heard that at least 10 or 20 times in every state that he's gone in. Like, look, man, we love you, but, like, it's Trump right now. Like, you sit tight, like, we'll bring you in 2028. And I think he understands that and realized that probably has leveraged into the decision to drop from the race, because it's like, he's realizing that the people that were telling him now is your time, and convinced him that it was so. And I don't think early on it was bad to say that it might be his time. But after seeing the results, then it becomes clear who was right and who was wrong, and you drop out, right? And just make way, clear the path, and let it, let Trump do his thing. Make it clear to the rest of the world at this point that the American people are going for Trump. And everybody so far that's dropped out, both Vivek and DeSantis, are both pro-Trump, and you knew they would be, right? And this is why I was telling a lot of Trump supporters, like, ease up on DeSantis here. He's a rare bird. You don't get these type of solid alpha candidates very often. Like, just ride out the primary. Like, they're going to debate, they're going to bring out their differences, and then they're going to kiss and make up. And most likely, as it turned out, and we all kind of knew, Trump would end up winning this thing. And when the DeSantis drops out, he'll endorse him. And that's exactly what happened, right? So here we are, right? Trump has officially retired the name Ron DeSanctimonious, as he said to a group. I don't know who he was talking to. It was a video of him in a group, but that's that, right? Now we move on to the next phase. So now about Texas, and I'm curious to know, if you're even aware that the Supreme Court ruled against Texas as far as letting the border agents back into that park area that they had cut off. They basically have, well, look, a lot of people are like, the SCOTUS sold us out. And I don't think they did. Although, that being said, I don't think they did, because there is a constitutional argument and a ton of precedent now their opinions are not out yet, so we'll have to wait and get their opinions. I don't know, whose thoughts were what. I do know that it was a 5-4 decision, and that Amy Barrett sided with the left. Okay, and I say that, look, I don't want to make this always, that every judge is partisan, but Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh and Kavanaugh is pretty, John Roberts like as well. They all went. They all said they would not have allowed the border. They would have let Texas handle it. All right, and that's because of their what I consider to be their given right to fend off invasion. And now there also, though, is clear language in the Constitution that the federal government has jurisdiction, and it's not something, Now this could be a future convention, right? If nothing gets corrected there, and I don't think it will be a future convention, only because I think we're at a position now where, we're heading to the White House. So when Trump gets into the White House, the border's going to be secure. And I think, one good thing about Desantis running, if for nothing else, is he got Trump to be a little bit tougher minded on using the military for the border. That's something that Trump did not do while he was in office, but is definitely spoken curtly about it, after other individuals running said, really, Desantis was the first one to say it, that he unequivocally that he'll send the military to the border. And once he said that, it became, it became a thing. And then, the media's all, would you send it? Going to every candidate with it. And Trump was far more open to it. And maybe he was open to it in his first run and just didn't do it because it wasn't the situation that we're dealing with now. But it was still bad. Like he did a great job on the border, but there was still, our border has been porous, even in the best times and the most secure times. That border has been porous. Now, it looks like it was secure compared to what's going on today, right? Like, when you look at it compared to today, it was in complete lockdown. But the wall was effective. They were slow in the flow, et cetera. It wasn't, but that being said, like, I think it's going to be a lot more hardcore second time around. I hope it is. I hope, I hope that Trump learned from that and decides to go, much more hardcore in this round. So we'll see what happens. But, right now, here we are, right? So the Supreme Court says they can come back in. Does Texas let them in? Or does Texas just be like, we don't care. We're not letting them in. Like, we're defending our state from invasion and we're not letting them in. So the next move is Jim Abbott's. He's got 3 or 4 states behind him, 5 states behind him. This could turn into a very interesting story. Because if the border agents show up and the National Guard's like, you ain't getting in, what happens, right? Do they start firing on each other? Like, what what happens? I don't think it'll ever come to that. But how do you enforce that? How do you enforce the Supreme Court decision? Is Abbott just going to say, look, I want to honor the law, and the Supreme Court has spoken, and I'm going to let them in? Or are they going to turn around and be like, no, like, we're not letting you, or we'll let you in, but you're not allowed to do anything, right? Like, this is going to be an interesting thing to sit back and watch. And Bob's saying over here on Facebook, Bob, you're my only commenter today, folks. You can feel free to speak up, but he said so did Roberts when it comes to deciding against. Yeah, so when it comes in 5-4, right? And I guess I just assumed everybody, like, you kind of think Roberts is going to go that way, but when it's 5-4 decision, you've got the 4 being those guys, right? That means everybody else. But I picked on Amy Barrett because we're still trying to learn what her decision-making process is like, right? Like, I would have expected Roberts. Like, Roberts didn't shock me, I guess. So that's why, like, Roberts did that, and I'm like, yep, Roberts is a precedent guy, like, to the point where he doesn't think. He finds a precedent and he runs with it. And, precedent's fine and it's important and all that. But when you're in a unique situation like we are now, like, you need to think. You need to think. You can't just, precedent says, and then just make a bad decision. Precedent in the past, at similar cases in the past, did not involve a full-blown invasion like we're looking at right now. And this case is unique for that matter, and they should have they should have considered that. I mean, obviously, the common sense approach is like, look, the government clearly is not trying to secure it, so someone has to. And Texas has taken, in leadership fashion, has taken that role, and good for them. Good for them. I'll cheer on Texas the entire way. If they decide that they're gonna, that they have an issue with this, again, I got to look at the full text of the decision that was made, because, if it was just, yeah, you have to let them in, you don't have to let them do anything. Like, I don't understand what, how much Texas has to cede here. But I will tell you this: if this turns out where Texas bows down and just, lets them in, and the borders reopen and everything's chaos again, then yeah, then this might be an issue, for a future convention that we need to look at, right? At least from the standpoint of a threat, right? At least from the standpoint of, like, look, federal government, right? Like, we know you got that power right now, but we're not going to just sit here while you just blatantly, allow this country to be invaded. Like, that's just not going to happen. And so at that point, it would probably be one of those situations where the momentum starts building up for a convention, and then the government starts to act to prevent it from happening, which will usually be the case. This convention that we're calling right now, this one's different. This one, there's no stopping this train, right? I don't care how long it takes. There's no stopping this train. We will get term limits. We will get fiscal restraints, and we will get government overreach amendments into the Constitution of the United States of America. There's no other way to address those issues than through amendment. There's no way we're going. I don't know how many elections someone has to live through to understand that it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat, they're going to overspend, no matter what, right? But the border issue is different. The border issue, I know a lot of convention of states traditional folks, not fans of things like that, right? They probably want to proverbially slap me on the hand for even suggesting such. But, like, in the end, that this type of thing cannot just be left alone. It cannot just be left where the government has this discretion to not, like, I don't mind, like, to protect against a tyrannical government who's doing it intentionally. You can't just leave it only to them and no other way. Now, some would argue, as is being argued now, that, that it's not that way, and that they do have the right to protect themselves from invasion. And so that's what they were toggling in court, and that's why they had 4 justices on their side. But Amy Barrett and Roberts let it go. They sided with the Marxists, and decided open borders are okay as long as the federal government says so, which is basically what they did. Right? They basically made the decision that even if the federal government is completely ignoring its responsibilities, everyone else just has to take it. And so we'll see. We'll see. Michael Arnold, how are you, sir, over on Facebook? One of the enumerated powers of the federal government is to protect us from invasion. Absolutely. I wouldn't think this ruling violates that, and it could be justifiably ignored. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, right? We're in those waters now, right, Mike? Like we're in those waters where it's murky, and more times than not, when we get into murky waters, the Supreme Court tends to make the wrong decision. and so, whether or not it violates that, I don't think so. Right? I don't think it necessarily violates the idea that they need to protect us from invasion, but at the same time, like, I just want to see it all play out, right? I just want to see it all play out, and I'm for Texas either way. I understand all arguments, but, like, the border situation is so bad, I just can't see them ceding back that border. I just can't see that happening. So, whether or not, I mean, I'm sure they'll let border agents in, but what does that mean, right? Like, are they cutting down the wire, or are they going to just, let them in the same entrance they go in? right? Like that's my thing. Because the border agents are not bad people either. These agents on the ground are good people trying to do their job. And hell, I would argue if you talk to a lot of them, you're probably going to hear from the border agents like, we support Texas. Right. And so, we'd rather, we'd like to have Texas on our side. But in fact, the orders that they get are what cause the problems. And that's where things get, that's where things get bad. So again, on Facebook, they could clear out a big swath of land, then electrify, fence it. Of course, and corral them all in it, much like the Devil's Punch Bowl after the Civil War. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of look. This is going to be fun to watch, right? This is going to be fun to watch. I want to see, I want to see what Texas's reaction is really. I want to see what Texas's reaction is. I think, when it comes down to it, Texas is, Texas in its own right, just from its general attitude and its history, is pretty, is pretty on fire, right? Texas they're independent as it gets, right? Still a Lone Star state, right? And they see them mentally, they see themselves that way. And even with the recent invasion of Californians into Texas, they're getting it from all sides, right? They're getting invaded by Californians and they're getting invaded from the other side of the border. So like even their internal border is causing an invasion for these guys. And so I don't see them, I don't see them backing down. I think, in the end, what we're going to see from Texas is, let's fight, right? That's what I think we're going to see. And we'll see how that plays out, but and what that means, right? What let's fight means. Like, I mean, obviously they're not going to physically. I don't think they're going to get into physical skirmishes with the border patrol. I think they have a ton of respect for those men and women, and I think I think that respect is mutual with everybody on the ground. It's the political fight that's going on here, and does Texas have a right to defend itself or not? Or if the federal government says so, does Texas just have to allow its border to be erased? And I think in the end, Supreme Court or not, they're not going to let their border be erased. I think they've been taking this on the chin for far too long, and I think they're not going to continue to just right, because the border states have more responsibility than everyone else. The border states in this area, because they're coming over their border, right? But they're ending up everywhere. So like everyone that sees these all these people protesting and rioting and doing whatever, like there's a lot of, you got too many people coming over to not think there are bad characters coming over, right? There's just too many. And that needs to be put to bed. And I don't know if we have until 2024 to wait for that. So yeah, good job, Texas. Good job. Be nice to see Arizona kind of kick in with that too. That would be nice to see, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But right now, right, the Supreme Court has ruled, and they ruled in favor of the Biden administration. So this is one of those deals. It's one of those catches you get when you have constructionist judges that you may, like you want them, right, because you want them to rule on the Constitution as written, but sometimes, even they can differ in opinion. And I can see the argument being made that, saying the Constitution, you can't stop the federal government from dealing with immigration. So, but at the same time, they're not doing it. So what's the remedy and what's the out? And it looks like Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh agree with that. Like, look, they got to defend, it's a self-defense right now. This is not an immigrant issue in that sense, where they're not taking the power away from the government. They're saying they're controlling their own border. And so it goes both ways. But, right now, thanks to, it really comes down to Amy Barrett, because I knew Roberts was going to go the way he did. Like that was, I don't think anybody in their right mind knows who knows Roberts at all would think that Roberts would actually rule based strictly on the Constitution. I think he would always take any opportunity he can to side with precedent at all times. So it is what it is. But Mike says we all know Texas and every other state in the republic are sovereign, right? And they have the right to defend themselves. Absolutely, and that's where I stand on this. And I think that's where Gorsuch, Thomas Alito, and Kavanaugh stood on this. But like this is one, this is noteworthy for Amy Barrett, right? Because this was a significant ruling, and we saw where she landed. And frankly, this is the second time that she's landed like that. The first one being on the vaccine mandates. Yes, she said they should not be allowed, but she said the reason she said that was what concerned me. Only Gorsuch and Alito actually, or Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas actually, were of the opinion in the vaccine mandates that even if the legislature had given that authority to OSHA, it would still be unconstitutional. Kavanaugh and Barrett and Roberts, they only agreed because there was no clear language from the legislature, basically saying if the legislature were all one way, decided to just put out a bill or put out instructions, however they give their information to these regulatory agencies or their orders, if they were to just make it clear that they had the authority to do that, that somehow the federal government would have the authority to do that. And they don't. So this is like Amy Barrett is starting to paint a picture for me, and it's not a very nice one. It's not a picture I'm particularly happy to look at. So, let's see what happens with her as this goes forward. But I'm not a big fan. And frankly, Kavanaugh came down on the side of righteousness today, but he was on board with that vaccine piece too. Like the jury's still out on him too. Like I don't know what this is how John Roberts was born, right? This is how the Kennedy and the Roberts get born. All right, these people who they take the political side of it and I'm not saying that Amy's doing that yet, but this is what it evolves into. It's this feeling that we don't want the court to always be partisan split by who appointed. We want to, make sure we're giving the appearance that we're even handed and they make bad decisions based on that. And that's what Roberts has become. Now, Kavanaugh and Amy Barrett have not become that yet, but it's something to keep your eye on. It's something to keep your eye on for sure. All right, so let me see what we got here. Just a quick scan. I normally don't get much out of you. I don't even know why I still stream there. It just up feed, no reason. But and I may, by the way, I have said this in my last live event, and I'll say it now. There very well might be a time where I drop YouTube altogether. As of this moment, I don't know how to get a stream key for X without using that paid software, third-party paid software. With them, you can just sign in and it goes. But even though I have the check mark and everything with X, I'm not able to. I don't see a place to get the stream key, so I'm going to research that. But definitely take a minute, folks, if you're watching now, to definitely follow me on X. It's at Patriot Think Tank with the 2 T's in the middle is only one. So it's Patriot Think, and it's just the same T that ends Patriot and starts Think. But I am trying to grow that channel in the last couple months, and I have found it difficult to do. So what I'm going to ask is that the 18,000 here in Facebook, if everybody could just get up and walk over to that room. All right. Thank you. But yeah, we're trying to make it happen there because that really is the free speech platform of the future, and I'm definitely hoping to get myself over there. So, all right. On that note, sorry I didn't get the chat working today, folks. I'll look into why that didn't happen. There's a lot of moving parts to this free software that I'm using now, which is actually much more capable and much more flexible than the stuff I was paying for. So I get to save about, I don't know, $30 a month or so between the two. But there are definitely a learning curve that I'm going through here as well. So, once I get this chat thing figured out, I will absolutely start highlighting the chats and get that chat box up again. You know what? All right, you're going to see the intro for a second before I shut it off. So, all right. Yeah, it's not working. Okay, just wanted to make sure the scene I was in, but Bob Dorland says over on Facebook, Texas would be the first state that would deputize it, that would deputize its entire citizenry. Yeah, no, that's definitely in Texas fashion and Texas style. That is definitely not above Texas, not above deputizing the entire citizenry. That I could totally see happening. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that whole thing plays out. But it did happen. The ruling did come down. So, it's just to sum it up, no more DeSantis. And when I say no more DeSantis, I mean in the race, of course, right? He's going to continue to flex and the things, and he's going to continue to lead the nation from Florida as he has in the past. Like governors follow DeSantis. When he goes out and makes a move, other governors follow. And, it's mostly because other governors, they're not as aware of everything that's going on as DeSantis is. When they see him make a move like, pulling a pension fund from BlackRock, that's like good idea. That's that kind of thing. Or going after the Confucius Institute. What some of the governors might have been like, what are the Confucius? And then they find out and they go, oh yeah, no, we don't want that. And then they take action, right? So this is how it goes, right? This is, and it's actually going to be a good thing for the country. We'll have Trump at the top, right? Like, hammering it down, holding it down, securing the border, dealing with China, etc. Ending all these proxy wars, all of that. And then from the inside, right, we got DeSantis motivating governors to take steps that they may not have thought of or may not have. And so slowly we put the pinch, right, on the Marxists until they start to become outed, right, until it becomes clear that it really is only 25% of the population or 30%. And even those people, when faced with the constant reality that they would be faced with and the results coming from states that are going against what they believe in, slowly but surely, they'll find themselves wanting to move to those states too, and things will start to get better. So I'm optimistic about that too. All right. So today was supposed to be a quick jump on. It's never a quick jump on. Always turns into an hour or so, right around where I am right now. So I don't have stats up on this software, so I don't even know how many people are still watching. I'm actually have to go to each one to look. I'll get that addressed too, but I will still be on Wednesday night. So Wednesday Night Live will continue. I'm just going to be jumping on with these additional ones from time to time as news breaks out. We're in COS season right now, so as things go down with COS, right, we're going to be, I'll be jumping on as quickly as I find out, as quickly as I can after I find out, to make sure I'm communicating that news and any progress that gets made in the many states that we're going after. We're looking to see what happens in Iowa. I remember the regional director there saying it could happen early there. So my ears are open. We got North Carolina. We got a bunch going on right now. Kansas has to be readdressed with this supermajority thing. A lot of action going on, and I will let you know each step of the way when a state passes committee, when it gets to the House, when the House votes for it, etc. And let's celebrate the wins together as we try and take this country back, folks, right? All right, on that note, I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
And like that,